These days, there's more focus on the kinds of chemicals used to protect crops from insects and animals like gophers and voles. Well, here in Northern California, some researchers say there's a non-chemical option that may provide some valuable ammunition in that fight. Some might call it an old-world solution to a problem that impacts farms, orchards, and vineyards all across the Heartland, using natural predators like the North American barn owl to facilitate integrated pest management.
A true integrated pest management program, IPM, uses as many methods as possible to control a pest. And so for years, we've been using baits and poisons to kill pocket gophers. And I decided that it was time to get off the pesticide treadmill and try and use something different.
This study is being conducted in Northern California vineyards, where rodents, such as gophers and voles, are making tasty treats out of vine roots.
In this particular property, we have limited topsoil. We're growing smaller vines, a higher end crop, so we need as much root as we can in the ground. So if a gopher comes by and starts feeding on these roots, that's, it's limiting what that vine can pull up. It's cutting the juices that are going up into that vine, helping it grow.
Hey kids, what's going on in there?
Animal handler and researcher Mark Browning is part of the barn owl program, seeing how many nocturnal raptors are necessary to eradicate the pests in a particular field.
The barn owl can be utilized in almost any crop. They're being utilized in almond orchards, cherry orchards, pistachio, avocado, and that's California crops, including, of course, all the grapes. But something else is that barn owls are being used in sugarcane down in Florida, because the barn owl will center on the rodent that is most populous in its area. So if it happens to be pocket gophers here in California or voles up north of here, it might also be cotton rats down in the sugarcane of Florida, or rice rats in the rice plantations of Louisiana.
To increase the owl population, Browning is installing nesting boxes he says are designed to attract the predator bird.
It has a hole that is just the right size for a barn owl to get interested in. They like to go into a hole that is just small enough for them to squeeze into, but not large enough for something larger and more ferocious to come in and get them.
Browning is being assisted by several wildlife students from the University of California at Davis, including Kimberly Sugano. One of Sugano's daily duties is to keep track of the dirt mounds that may reappear following a night of owl activity.
What we do is we see mounds and we tamp them down and then come back 2 days later in order to see whether or not there has been any change. And we set up nest boxes in order to see whether or not we could get more barn owls into the study site.
Remember to hold so that you don't get messed on, okay?
Another job is to assist in the monthly census count of owl chicks to ensure the population is healthy and increasing.
These guys are just starting to get their facial discs in. Barn owls have these concave facial discs created by feathers, and that's one of the reasons that barn owls have some of the best hearing in the bird world, which is already extremely good amongst owls. Barn owls have some of the best hearing among the owl families. And these guys, well, they're starting to get some flight feathers in, like Jillian's got one right here. These guys are coming in. These are flight feathers. And I would say they're about 2 or 3 weeks away from being able just to fly right out and become adult barn owls themselves.
Vintners say the use of barn owls in the region for pest control is nothing new.
We've had barn owl boxes up for probably 10 to 15 years now. But with this many and isolated in specific spots like this, we've never had this many we've typically had one probably for 40 acres or 30 acres. Now we're looking at 25 in a 100-acre block.
Browning's research is validating the need to increase the population of the raptor.
So if you've got a researcher in place that can take the time to measure that impact and determine how many boxes do we need in a given acreage, where do we need to locate them for the best effect, how often do we need to clean them, all those types of things, that's wonderful.
If we can come across where we need to put 5 per 20 acres, we'll put 5 per 20 acres. Yes, there's an expense to that, but you collect that money back by not having to send a tractor through the field, leaving little bait behind in burrows for these gophers to take back to their own burrow and die.
The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is also keeping an eye on the research, since the agency advocates the use of natural pesticide methods.
The more we can encourage people to restore as much as possible a natural environment where Mother Nature keeps things in check, rather than using chemicals to keep pests in check, I mean, that's simply good for all of us. And basically, that's what the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is concerned with, is encouraging a more natural world where a lot of species can survive and thrive.
So you actually have a predator that's extremely well suited for an IPM program, and I think that in the end, the result will be a greater interest in utilizing barn owls for rodent control, and various farmers around the country starting to realize that you can use this animal to reduce the use of poisons and other invasive methods.
As night begins to fall, the nocturnal owls begin to take flight in search of their prey.
Barn owls happen to be extremely well adapted to this job. They are attracted to nest boxes. That means you can attract them to a farm. They don't mind each other's company. So that also means that you can have a lot of them and they're not going to fight. They tolerate human presence and they eat a large number of rodents and have lots of babies. So you actually have a predator that's extremely well suited for an IPM program. And I think that in the end, the result will be a greater interest in utilizing barn owls for rodent control, and various farmers around the country starting to realize that you can use this animal to reduce the use of poisons and other invasive methods.
As for the growers, they feel the use of barn owls will allow them to provide a more environmentally friendly and cost-efficient product for the consumer.
They can see that the product they're purchasing is safer for the environment, is better for the grower because the grower is making a little bit more money, and potentially the price of the product that they're buying is lower.
When you see an owl flying around at dusk, starting to hunt for the night, it's one of the neatest sights, I think, that I've ever had the opportunity to experience. Working in these properties, I get to see a lot of wildlife interact with our farming operation, and knowing that the owl's out there taking care of one less thing that I have to worry about is a great thing.